Hello and welcome to Warblog in high fidelity. With my new supersonic microphone, I am 5 times the pleasure to listen to. Today I'm going to play Guelta Zemmur. Before we press the play button, well, it's part of the Western Sahara War. Let me just get the Wikipedia here. You can read all about it here. Western Sahara War between 75 and 91. It's quite interesting. What you can see here is, let's see if I can open this in a new tab. I haven't actually looked at this yet myself. It's the first time I've seen this one. I was going to show you another one, but basically, let's just look at it. As you can see here, Western Sahara. This is Guelta Zemmur. So this is Morocco, and I think this bit here is the Sahara part of Morocco, which is sort of very deserty. Here is Mauritania and Algeria up here, and essentially I don't want to go into details because I don't really know, I'm not fluent in it, but basically the Polisario Front are sort of rebels, and they want autonomy in their region, and this is the map I was actually based my thing on. There is there, and there is a picture there of the berm. So what we're looking at here, there's Morocco. Now the Polisario Front essentially occupied this part of the Western Sahara, and the Moroccans built this essentially a wall. They call it a berm, and here's the picture of the berm, so you can almost see how it worked. Although the bit that we're dealing with I think was a little more mountainous, I put it all in hills. Where it went through the desert, you can see they've just obviously gone along with a JCB and dug this out and put it over here. Also mined particular parts of the area. This game doesn't have mines in it, so there's the berm along there, and I've manned it with small companies. I don't like the presentation of the Polisario. I think that looks a bit naff, doesn't look very strategic. Maybe they should all come in one column. And also they're not really that well split up. I just sort of plonked them in, so all the tanks are there and all the mechanised is there, instead of it maybe being split up in any particular order. I only really read this through very quickly. I sort of, when I saw the picture, I thought, wow, I've got to do this one. And plus, it's the Western Sahara, which is I find some of these campaigns, you think, what, in 1989? I mean, it just didn't feel like there was a war in 1989. That doesn't feel too far off at all. And I mean, especially when you look at this, it went on till 91. But anyway, so that's what we're dealing with. So this is the berm. We'll just jump in and play it. Now, this is the biggest battle of the Battle of Guatemala. 7th of October was the attack was the bigger battle in the war since, I think they want to say biggest battle in the war since 1988. Essentially, they were sort of funded by the Soviets. I think that's pretty much what they're talking about. Lots of Mauritanian French involvement, lots of scope in this. I've only really just sort of looked into it, so I don't really know what's what. But essentially, they, I mean, this is just like a lot of rebels. They've got all this stuff. I mean, they've got surface-to-air missiles that took out, 2 or 4 of the Moroccan aircraft. essentially they take this, and they did actually retreat. So I don't know how well they're going to do, but you do remember that they are in fortifications. So I don't know how I'm going to do this. I haven't really thought about it really. Just wanted to test out my microphone. What I did think about was all this infantry here is a bit restricted because it can only really move 2. So what I'm going to start to do here is perhaps build up some kind of strike force with air defense support. So that's all the infantry and the slow moving stuff. Okay, so what we have here is some motorized units. And what we have in here is probably more than I thought, mechanized units. And basically I'm just going to send everything in a beeline towards that. It's a representation, so I don't think it's necessarily going to be a strategic game in the sense that how are we going to do it. It should be a walkover, and I think according to what I've read it was a walkover. I mean, essentially the key difference to this battle is that the rebels had a lot of armour. I mean, even if you consider the ISIS, you know, they're mainly sort of just infantry, you know, regulars. You know, you wouldn't expect them to suddenly have armour, but they did, and it was because they had this armour. Now, I don't think I've got the scales correct. I've just, you know, it's plonked in there for representation, really. But this armour, if you would maybe consider this without the armour and the air defence and the artillery, they probably wouldn't have much of a chance. So they actually got quite a lot. The actual book that I read actually states that it was the biggest armour deployment in the North African region since the Second World War. So it does sound quite significant. I'm going to send one little tank unit down here. I do want to sort of at least pretend to be doing it a little strategically. So we got the mobile units on the flank, which, you know, was just chance, but I think that's actually not such a bad idea. And also perhaps trying to give the Moroccans the idea, a little less clearer indication of exactly where we're going to attack. They probably don't know where we are. I think one of these hexes is about between 5 and 10 kilometers across, so it's 5, 10, 15, 20, about 30 miles away, so there's no way they can see them yet. They probably don't have. They did have electronic surveillance across this berm though, but only at the berm, so you know they're probably only really picking things up, you know, fairly close. They probably had air surveillance, but I'm guessing at the moment they don't know. So and finally we got some motorized infantry. Now I don't want to commit the motorized infantry too much, so I'm going to keep it in line with the regular infantry who are marching. So that's the first turn. So anyway, I've just changed the format, so now the end turn is down here. I don't know whether you can see that on the video, because I know this video seems to chop the bottom bit off. But basically the end turn's down here now. So click that. It's now the Moroccan turn, as you can see there, and the colour pattern's around the wrong way, and that should be red, not green. Well, I can fix that. I find it a bit odd it being down here. I'm used to it being up here, so there's a bit of a lost space here, but I've just recently expanded the maps, although I will be still playing the little ones. I don't think it's a big problem. This looks a bit odd. Anyway, The Moroccans are not going to do anything because they're not expecting anything. So end their turn. Right, I think everything depends on where the infantry go, and I do want to create the illusion of a line. With artillery support. Some air defence up on this hill. Why not? I'm sort of hoping to get attacked by the Moroccan planes to see, because I've given this some quite generous air defence here, to see how that works out. I'm not going to move my mobile units any further forward than the infantry. I'm using the infantry as the slowest line. I've seen some of these ancient Syrian battles where they just have big long lines of chariots and pikemen versus big long lines of chariots and pikemen and elephants, and they always seem to lack strategy because they are literally in just big long lines. You think, well, how can that be strategic? But it's sort of what we've got going on here, really. Is this big long line of infantry to attack this place, which the Moroccans are converting to their own. I always get those things muddled up. Okay, so end that turn. I'm so keen on it being down there. It needs to be bigger. And the Moroccans again are not going to do anything because there's not really much they can do. But I think they've probably got a bit of an alert on this. Someone's probably said, "Hey, we can see something on the horizon." There's been some reports of some units. Just a little thing here. There is a road here, but other than that, there is nothing here. It really is sort of the desert. I mean, there could be some tracks and things like that, but really there isn't. But I think from here, I think it's fair to say that they would have some indication, although that could be 10 miles away, 5 miles away. That's still, you know, a long way off. But I think in the nature of this type of event, I think that they would know. So I can consider now that the Moroccans are aware that there's an assault coming on. But what they're probably not aware of is that there's armour involved. And to sort of demonstrate this, only 2 artillery units. 1, 2, 3. We're going to put in some. That shouldn't be like that. I have to sort that out. I don't think it's the first time that's happened though. So anyway, 1 to 2 and exchange. And so there we have it. Now it's 15 minutes almost. So I don't really want to do too much more. I think I might do another video in a bit. But what we've got there now is we've introduced ourselves with some medium range artillery coming in onto this position here. But what I'm sort of half suggesting is that it's a feint. Now you can't do feints when you're playing solo, but you know, I could have done an assault further up here and then maybe made the Moroccans think that it was happening up here, but we've gone here. yeah, see how that works. Anyway, a few seconds. See you soon. Okay, well, in the interlude, what I have done, and it won't make any effect on this game, is to, I think, turn 3 or maybe 4, the Moroccans will get some motorised reinforcements. Basically, we get 4 motorised infantry companies up there. So that will have effect on their game, give them some flexibility to reinforce whichever part of the line is assaulted. As I hinted before, I should have thought of it before, but I've done a diversionary or assault on here, but it's not really a diversionary because it's not exactly that far off. But I think it's now clear that the Polisario front are carrying out an assault. What I've yet to do is to figure out what sort of odd ratios I'm going to have against each one of these little hexes, because they're in hills. I can't remember the odds actually, which is a bit odd. They're doubled, I think, in hills, so they're going to be worth 2, and they're tripled in fortifications, so they're going to be worth 6. We'll see what the odds are when we assault, I guess. So they're not walkovers when you consider that these are actually quite small units. We're still going to need quite a lot to get through. But as I quite often try to reinforce, there could be still. Well, if the central point, if the distance between there and there, central points, is between 5 and 10 kilometers, there's still plenty difference between them. So he doesn't have any movement now. Okay. There is no method to my madness. This is one of those games where I really am just sort of plonking the units in. Plonk, plonk. Movement 0, 5. Now, clearly, this is a sort of a defended position. Now, I'm sort of assuming that it's like a lot of these lines. They probably weren't particularly heavily defended because they didn't know where they're going to be attacked. If you recall the map, which I've shut down now, it's the entire length of the country, so even the sort of spread of units that I've got there is probably a bit optimistic. Now, I'm not going to commit any assaults now, but they're sort of, I think, probably facing off with each other now. And it's now I don't like this thing down here, it's too fiddly to get to. But anyway, it's now the Moroccan turn. And there's a few things that they can do. Firstly, they do have some air power, so they can see these units coming in. So we're going to try and do some damage on these lead units. And oh look, it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, I wonder why that is. Maybe I didn't give them the correct specifications. That's not going to make any difference now. I did the setup wrong. I will look at that setup quickly. No. I think the problem I got here with the aircraft, I'll have to sort this out. Don't want to spend too much explaining it. Is that it on the first turn? It's sort of there's a sort of equal or greater, but it's only probably looking at if greater. So the turn it's on now, the turn it comes on, is equal to the turn we've got now, not less than the turn we've got now. And so probably sort of classifying it as not being on the board yet. But this thing is looking at it the other way around. So I'll have to sort that out. Maybe sometime this year. Still half a year left. I think I should do it. Anyway, so the Moroccans can't use their air power this turn, but they will use some artillery. I think we're going to go for this unit here. Huh, that was good. 1-to-1 and exchange. So they've got a 1-to-1 against this unit here. I wonder how they got a 1-to-1. Oh, I see. Oh, I don't actually. Oh, I see. I know how they got a 1-to-1. Basically, because they don't have any units around the hexes, they're at minus 10%. So on 2, that's 0.2. So they don't have 2-to-1 because they don't have 2. They have 1.8 versus 1, which is 1-to-1. So they've caused a fatigue on that unit. So they've got some artillery, but obviously don't have a lot. And this is a massive attack, which is what it was. So I don't feel too sort of. I don't think it's sort of, too ahistorical at the moment. It looks a bit bad. If we had the reinforcements as I just put in, I think it's fairly balanced in reflection of what happened, at least to some extent. There's probably a lot wrong with it, but anyway. Now, also, I think I'm going to push the Moroccan units sort of this way. Was that a good move? It's done now. So we've now got a solid line there. So they have managed to respond, and I think respond fairly well, but we've got a gap there, which is not good. But what they could do with it, I don't know. They're still going to have to attack into fortified hexes, so it's now. Have we done anything? Well, let's just go for it. Okay, so now the Polisario front can do things in earnest. Well, I think we're gonna. I really don't know what these odds are going to be. I just think that it's going to be overkill. I'm going to go for this hex here. They've recovered their depression. Well, I think it's worth getting that into that hex. Stop this unit coming down reinforcing and gives me a little more manpower there. We'll take this hill here. Okay, well this is all air defense and this is artillery. So let's see what we can do on this hex here. Now, as I said, I think we're going to go for about 6 or 8. And if they were worth 8, I'll be 1-to-1. Two-to-1. I might get 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 on this. You'll have to excuse the air defense being factored in now. I just really need to sort of get myself together and do those things, but they just slip my mind so easily. The air defense can't engage in an assault with 8 factors. So yeah, don't use air defense if it appears. It shouldn't have. Apologise for that. 4-1 defender retreat. He had 6, which is what I anticipated. And that 29 was pretty good. So perhaps too much, because that's just going to happen again and again. What have we got here? Yeah, we can intercept there. So we've now cut the berm to some extent in very strategic places. They should have a little bit of movement left, so I can move my armour maybe into there. The mechanised, motorised, I don't think we have much. What else have we got? Nothing else can really move. I think I'm going to prepare for an assault there. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at that. So what we've got now is quite a nice little line, I think. It's quite hard to tell with the colour patterns, but I do like to make it hard on the eye from time to time. Not as a general rule, but it just takes a bit of discipline. And I'm not indicating too much for laziness, not all the time. I mean, it's not impossible to figure it out, but we have quite a nice little line. I think this definitely reflects a concerted assault in a realistic manner on Guelta Zemmur. And I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park either. So, next turn. Right, can the Moroccans get their air force off the ground? Yes, it's that first turn of their presence. I think really frustrating me. Now, do I want to go against this unit? Or is there going to be something better? I mean, I anticipate that the Polizitio, or whatever they're called, are going to focus maybe on this hex here. And there's only really 2 proper hexes. Taking the artillery out might be a good move. There's a lot of armour in there. The armour should have moved forward, but it can still do something. I think this hex here might be a better bet, although it's just, there isn't really a lot to it. I'm going to go for this stuff here, see what the odds are. I don't want to spend too much time thinking. And an exchange. They don't have much air power. The air defense didn't seem to do anything. It should have been in range. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should have greater range. It shouldn't be 4. It should be 6. Okay. Now we can't really assault that. We're just not strong enough for it. But the units are trying to move forward. It's turn 4, so they will be having their 4 companies coming down the road, almost straight there. So this would be a lot tighter under the new approach. They're just not in a position to attack anything, but we're going to use some artillery here. They're in desert, so there were 4. This is insane because I could counter-attack. I'm a big fan of counter-attacks as a strategy. I mean, this is a defensive strategy, and I'm going to go for it. I think it's a big risk, but it's a video. So this would be a 1-to-1. Oh, dice roll of 12. I think they're doing some court martials there. Yeah, that was probably a mistake. With a die roll of 12 though, that was unlucky. Could have gone either way. Depression 4. That could almost be the end of it. So they retreated from there to there, and these ones retreated from there to there. But that's not good. That's not good at all. That wasn't very good either. Okay. I can certainly see myself maybe wanting to play this one again without making such a silly mistake as that. But it is tempting to do that, because if I pushed that unit out, there would have been a depression 3, and they would have been in a much worse position for attacking this hex. Now they're in an incredibly strong position because they're at depression 4. Maybe I should have done that. He's still got some movement, so he can still partake. Some units in there. And block that unit. I should cover that. 2 units in there. In there. The armour really isn't required. But this is a really big stack. Let's move some of this surface to air stuff a little closer. So I'm pretty sure they've got enough to attack that, and I'm pretty sure it'll be a walkover. Let's see. That counter attack was not good. I can see myself wanting to play a game, but maybe on video X. Just I don't want to spend an hour just redoing something like that. Four to 1, defender eliminated. Now that was a good die roll. So again, at 4 to 1, that could have gone the other way. But that pretty much swings the game. Gives us that hex. So now the front line looks a little like this. There is actually a drawing tool on this thing, but I don't really know how to use it, so I don't think there's much use. But the front line is fairly close now to Guelta Zemmur. I really don't think there's much that they can do to halt this advance. Losing 2 of those companies was just the last thing on earth they wanted happening. Let's see if we've got any movement on any of these. Move 1, 1, 0. We've got 2.7. The armor's got 2.7. Let's just see what we can move here. So, I think unstoppable force is a term that springs to mind. The Moroccan Air Force are going to try and take out, in a desperate bid, This is desperate. No result. Now we've managed to put some units into there, and they're not depressed. I'm going to try and move these people further over. These people are going to struggle to get through. Now, do I move from there into there? I don't think I really have a choice, but it is a good move. I was sort of going to not do it because now I'll lose that hex, but I can still retreat there, although there's no way I'll be able to ever do any counter-attacking. So that's the lot. Now there is some artillery in here, so let's do some... Oh, there's just no point really. Counter artillery. Well, that was good. That was bizarre. I got a die roll of 1 at 1 to 2 odds, and I've got a die roll of 1. That if I had that sort of luck when I did the counter strike. So this artillery has been depressed to 2. I mean, it's substantial really, but it's only substantial when you've got something to sort of to follow up with. But no. Now we would get in some reinforcements about now. So you know, it's an interesting scenario. Counter strikes are probably not the thing to be doing in this situation. So I mean, they could even move their artillery in. I'm going to complete the flank here by moving my armour into these hills, and I'm going to try and play it slightly realistically by not throwing this flank away, and then we'll leave that extended there. I'm not worried about this flank too much. This is the money shot. I'm not even going to calculate the odds. I get the feeling that this is going to be fairly significant, but I think one of those units is also depression. He's got depressions 2, he's depression 0, so they're about 12. Now this artillery shouldn't really have a defense of 2, so that's going to be like 24. I mean, this is not going to be the walkover that you might imagine it to be. I mean, do they even have 24 points? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 25, plus the flank. This is going to be a 1-to-1. It was a 1-to-1, and it was an exchange. The power of defensive location. That was interesting, because now, I mean, that was quite interesting, because essentially, if you recall, I sort of considered this artillery. I know the artillery. Yeah, everything but the artillery got depressed because in theory it wasn't in the front line. So my observation was irrelevant, really. Okay. It ends up being a lot of this sort of surrounding things, but they do have the units to do it, and we can't exactly counter-attack anywhere. But it's not going to get easier. End the turn. What the Moroccans need to do what I might also do as well is have a couple of other reinforcements to reflect the continuing shuffling of the lines. I might also have one unit appear here and one unit appear here at certain intervals, to reflect other units that might come down and up the berm. Moroccan units can fire into this stack. I want to maximise the potential for some damage. Okay, that was a 1-to-1, so that was an exchange. So this should be a 2. Depression's 2, so they're not going out without a fight. It's just they don't have enough to cause the damage that would be useful. We're not going to do a brave counter strike, which means that we should at least be able to recover that depression, and 1 from there, so that's not much use. But we've got another unit. Now I don't want to stick everything into the same box, to be quite honest, because otherwise it will invite a complete surround, and that might not have been the best of moves. There's not much that this infantry company can do. That was a bit of a gamble, but I'm going to take it because I don't want to spend too long faffing around. I've got the artillery. Oh well. The Polisario front's turn. Well, I don't like doing these complete surrounds because it just looks a bit arbitrary. But that's about as good as it's going to get. And this is about as good as the assaults are going to get. I reckon this will be a 1-to-1, but it might not even be that. A 1-to-1, another exchange. So this is like the Alamo. I mean, these Moroccan units are really holding out in Guelta Zemmur, completely surrounded, and there's not really much that these units can do. However, there is a proper excuse for a counter-strike now. This is what happens when you do surround things, because this unit now, attacking into the hills is not good, but I've got 2 assault opportunities here. North into this mechanised unit with some support there. I could also do this attack, which is what I want to do. Oh no, it's the rest of the Polisario turn, and they haven't got anything they want to do because everything is moved. So it's end turn to the full Moroccan turn now. So I'm going to start off here. Two to 1, defender retreat. So that caused, they were on depression 6. That is actually a phenomenal turnaround because that's really weak now. So what we need to do is move this little unit here, shuffle him along, and he's at depression 2 and he's at depression 6. Let's do a counter strike. My favourite. What could go wrong? Attack. 4 to 1. What odds? 4 to 1. Now that's good. But I'm not sure I have any movement with this unit, and I don't want to move anything out of there. And we've only got 30 seconds left, so that was really good because this unit now has been pretty much wiped out of the game. I mean, the best he can get back to is 6 depressions, and the Moroccans have shown that they're not defenceless. They'll probably be able to get this surround again, this surround back, but you know, there is a cost because it leaves the units weakened. So come up to another little break. So see whether I take this any further. Okay. Oh, the the Polisario front units have well and truly surrounded Guelta Zemmur. But the Moroccans launched a successful counter-strike in the sort of northeastern direction here, and essentially decimated this armoured company. So they really knocked a few tanks out. However, there's not much else that they can do. They don't have any movement. They really should be moving into there, because all that will happen next turn is another unit will move around, and I think probably reinforce that with a little bit more than they had in there before. They've got enough really to sort of double up around the whole thing, so it's not going to be easier next turn. They've got no more movement, so it's the end of the turn. This unit is now dug in. Okay, so this unit really isn't capable of contributing much, but the other unit underneath it only has one depression. We can take that hex back. Now the question is, do they shuffle round? I think maybe yes. The depressions are going up. Let's leave our options open there. So we've got 3 infantry companies and a mechanised company in there. So we can certainly start to slide things around. Let's just do it this way, make it a little easier. And just reload that, give us the new image. So essentially we have a different sort of pattern now. I'm leaving these here just to sort of stop these units from completely outflanking. Not that there's really much they can do. I've doubled that up. That is the weakest hex in the assault, but let's see what we can do this turn. All it needs is a defender retreat and it's game over. So that's the beauty of one-to-one assaults. I mean, if you do 2 of them, one of them will work. Let's see how lucky they are. An exchange. Okay. They are really holding out in there. Depression 2. So that's the end of that turn. I can move these units, but I don't really want to start moving them yet. I'm not sort of that desperate yet. But I will move the air defence units closer because I'm not sure that they're 1, 2, 3. They should be in reach now. End turn. Okay, so the Moroccans are putting in a brave defence. As is, on the new version, there will be a few more reinforcements coming along this way. We've got this unit here. Who's going to try and push in this direction, and I actually think that these units are going to try and push around. Air power. See, these are at depression 2 and 3, so they're not exactly fresh. So the air units, airstrike, no result. Well, that could have been nice. That could have been a defender retreat. That could have really shifted things. Let's see what the counter strike out of here has to offer. I reckon it could be a 1-to-1. Did I press the button? And only an exchange. Well, can't have everything. End the turn. It's fairly tense. I don't think the Moroccans can win, but I think they can push the inevitable fair way. Let's just shore this up, because that is the weak hex. Bring in this fresh unit, move him along there, and commit this assault. So commit a crime. It only takes one of these to work, and I'm feeling that it's about time that they got the DR result. And they did. With die roller 2, well, that is it. There really isn't actually anything left of the Moroccans, so history has repeated itself. There's nothing left for the Moroccans to try for now. And that's pretty much what happened from what I've read historically. They did then actually fall back and give ground on this, and it was just the sheer weight of numbers and the armour. The only thing is, I do try to balance these things up a little, and I haven't really actually even done the maths. But when you look at this, the casualties were for the Moroccans 14 killed, 31 wounded, Moroccan claim, and for the SADR, have I got it wrong? There's got to be the same. Yeah, it says Polisario guerrillas lost 80. It doesn't mention anything here about tanks and things like that, but I got this battle from my big book of battles, and it did mention all the armour and things like that. So that's that. I'm not going to play it any further. I'm not going to take it any further than that. I mean, there's no way they're going to get that objective back. The Moroccans are going to run away. I mean, that's the really reasonable thing. And the Polisario front are going to regroup, reorganise, and take this bit of the berm and claim victory. Well, I think it's an interesting game. I think it's an interesting scenario in its own right, just because of the nature of the berm. You know, Western Sahara is an interesting place, I think. I don't think it's typical of the rest of Africa, where it's mainly, well, how to put it politely, black people. Morocco is more, well, they're sort of Moroccans, aren't they? So they're slightly different in their culture. They're sort of, I think it's a lot more Muslims, whereas I think more Central Africa is, whilst there's Muslims, there's a lot of Christians as well, and generally sort of non. You know, I think it's a different structure really. I would almost say Morocco is more Western, but it's clearly not. But it is certainly not. It's not like the Ivory Coast, in a sort of traditional sense, or even like Libya, I think. But anyway, I think it's just an interesting sort of. I think it's interesting. I think it's significantly different to the rest of, sort of some of the other African campaigns and scenarios that have been done on this site. I think on a replay, it would. I think the Moroccans have a chance of winning. I have almost gamified it slightly. The reinforcements that come on will change things. Maybe not doing the brave counter assault. I mean, that DR result was particularly unlucky. And having these other reinforcements, because once they're in these fortifications, they are actually pretty tough. So much so that I think on a second play, it's a bit odd really, because it's difficult to sort of I was trying not to yawn, but that's it. It's difficult not to sort of just play it by the rules, in the sense that the thing to do would just plough everyone into Guelta Zemmur, and they would just never get the odds. You could do that. I think the thing to do, if you could sort of anticipate what's happening, would be to stack everything in these three, or in this set of four fortified markers, fortified hexes. I mean, I don't know how many units you could get in there, but if you could pour the reinforcements into there and shuffle them round, I mean, that would be the way to play it. But playing it like that would then open up all these borders, and in theory, the Polisario front would then just go through here and uncontested into Morocco. So they wouldn't do that. They would at least try to preserve a front line, or at least a front line that dealt with the immediate threat facing them. So yeah, I mean, if all the units did go for Guelta Zemmur, then they might concatenate down to reflect that. But I don't think sort of suddenly moving everyone up here would be something they would naturally do, because then the Polisario front would then just go around. But I think by defending these hexes, that's a good bet, and I might up the air power, well, at least up it from 5, because I think if you get that, it does give you an edge each turn to be able to sort of whittle down and create some attrition, especially on this sort of open front. Now, I did actually deliberately double a lot of these hexes up. For example, these two were open, and it was, but I think leaving these hexes open does allow for an interesting strategy, because they are weaker hexes. You're immediately quite strong in the hills, but in the desert, you're in the open. So that's that. There's a couple of minutes left, but I'm not going to just talk forever. If you thought that was interesting, you can sign up and play. And as sort of inferred, it's sort of one of these interesting games that we know that the Polisario front win historically, and they should win just by looking at the numbers. But I think you can actually possibly play this to get the Moroccans to win. At least give the Polisario front a significant run for their money. But you might be able to do better than me and have different ideas on how to take the strategy. But I think it's an interesting game as opposed to one that's completely one-sided. But it's not necessarily balanced. It's you're going to lose. How long can you hold out for? And if you're really, really lucky, you might win. It's pretty unlikely, because you'd have to start assaulting to win. Unless the Polisario front spent every turn attacking and failing, they're not going to do that. They're going to withdraw, regroup, and come back in better order. Anyway, you might have fun playing it. You can play it by signing up, etc., etc. And as more games come on, I'll be playing with you speaking to you with my fancy microphone at another time. See you later. Cheers, mate.